give you an example that we're going to be presenting on Wednesday with CNN.com. The study was, I think, very interesting because it looked at CNN news content and the advertising that goes with it, not on CNN.com, but through the lens of Facebook. And so we recruited influencers and friendship pairs, so people who fit the academic model of influencers, the type of person that if you get an email from, you're going to respond and read it, and then their friend. And then we had a control group. And what we looked at is, to what extent does recommended news content generate a higher level of emotional engagement, and whether or not that then translates to the advertising. And what we found was amazing. It was 5 times more engaging, the advertising itself, when the recommendee got the content from an influencer. Now, to your question, well, couldn't we have gotten that from self-report? We're going to show video after video after video of the focus group where the friendship pairs were sitting, and the question was asked, if you receive news content through Facebook from this guy here or this gal here or your friend, are you going to treat that any other way? Are you going to be engaged with that in any other way? Time and time and time again, they just said, no, why would I? It's just content. And we saw a huge effect. To give you a sense, that 5 times more effect is the difference between like a display ad online and a television ad in primetime television. Huge, huge change in emotional content that people had no awareness of happening. The question of whether or not the advertising content or even the news content was a factor in this study is really important. And we controlled for those variables. And the way we did that is that we had a control group that just looked at everything by itself. We took news content that we thought of as evergreen, stories that would be engaging no matter what. And then, importantly, we had the influencers choose from 1 of 8 articles, recommend 4, and then post it on their Facebook page. And then we had their friends go to their Facebook page and look at 4 news stories. Now, importantly, they were the same 4 news stories no matter what the influencers recommended. So we were able to control for the advertising content and the news content in this study. Now, what's implied in your question is a really important one, which is, does it matter advertising versus content and those kinds of synergies? Well, that's our talk tomorrow. Our co-founder Brian Levine is going to be presenting with Tony Marlowe of Yahoo.com, and they're going to present an interesting study that really looks at content and advertising synergy, both from the types of stories being told, but they're also going to look at personal relevance. What happens when a news story or content is personally relevant or advertising is personally relevant? Now, it's not going to surprise anybody that personal relevance and content synergy leads to increased engagement, as we measure it on an unconscious level. What I think is surprising and important is that we can measure it quantifiably, and we can put that into a context, which is really important to sort of understand how big an effect is this, and how do we begin to create a strategy. And Yahoo's already thinking about differently how they go forward with this research.